Welcome back again, guys. I'm back here at the sawmill again today. I'm going to be cutting some of the cedar up into lumber. It's the stack that I've had here for a while now. I built myself up a pretty good stack while the ground was still frozen a month or two ago, and I wanted it like that so that I could spend my time milling here while the ground was all muddy and didn't have to try dragging these logs through the mud. So that worked out good. Now I'm left where I am in the pile now. There's quite a few of these bigger logs, so figured that'd be the perfect opportunity to get the backhoe kind of out of hibernation, so to speak. We haven't used it too much over the winter, so figured I'd get that going for the year and have it up and running for the summer now. So anyways, that makes it a lot easier to get these big logs up onto the mill. A lot of the times I'll just load logs by hand with the cant hook. The cedar's usually not too heavy, but I've got a bunch of these 16 footers to saw up now, so gonna see how that goes. Gotta get this log oriented how I want it on the mill and start cutting some lumber. The thing about these cedar logs is they have quite the taper to them, so it can sometimes be challenging to decide how you want to go about cutting it into lumber. For instance, this side here is 12 inches, and this is only just over 7, so there's quite the taper from one end to the other, but I think I'll try to get it jacked up here a little so the pit's nice and straight with the sawmill, and I'll just tie into it and see what happens. I don't really have much of a plan for some of this stuff. I'm just gonna a lot of the times my plan's just to get the biggest dimensions I can out of each log, so we'll see what happens here. If you've got trees like this cedar that has big amounts of taper to it, I'd highly recommend looking into one of these toe boards that Woodland Mills sells. If you have a Woodland Mills sawmill, obviously. It just makes life so much easier in my opinion. So you can see how much I've had to raise this end of the log to get the pith aligned with the sawmill, which this toe board really helps with. Of course, you could use some shims and blocks to achieve the same thing. It's just a lot more of a hassle having to lift up one end of the log and get the right size shims in there all the time. So if you have a bit of extra cash, this thing really helps. So this log's borderline okay to leave as a 6x6 post. I think that's what I'm gonna do for now. We have a lot of pole barns around the farm, and never know when we might be adding on a lean-to here or there. For around here, because of the frost line and whatnot, we have to bury them at least 4 feet in the ground. So if I measure up 4 feet, that gets me to about right here. So there'll be a bit of bark here and there showing and stuff, but not too concerned about it for outbuildings around the farm. If there's some bark on the corners and that, doesn't really matter. So I usually like trying to get the biggest dimensions out of each log that I possibly can. So I'll save that, and then, you know, in the future, if I'm really hurting for some 2x6s or 2x4s, I can just come back to this and cut it up then. So I like trying to leave stuff as big as possible unless you have a specific use for it. And that's about the biggest thing I could get out of this log, so I'm gonna leave it at that for now. They say cedar is supposed to be light, but it doesn't feel like it right now. Holy, sorry guys, got a little preoccupied. Well, here's another log that's kind of challenging my expertise. It's kind of just one of those logs that probably isn't really meant for lumber. It's kind of goes, curves down, then curves back up here. So I think no matter what I do, I'm gonna end up with some pretty warped boards. So I'm kind of just sitting here debating what to do with it. Might end up with some 2x4s or something, but it's so bent, it's just hard to even predict what you're going to end up with here. So like the last log, I might just start squaring it off and see what I end up with. If I can get a bunch of a few 2x6s, that would be really good, but 2x4s might be a little bit more realistic, but we'll see. Well, you can actually tell better once you make a couple cuts how bent the log is, but I shouldn't complain too much. I have a lot of nice straight cedar trees, so something like this is just a little bit interesting, and it would actually make for some nice live edge something if cedar was something I wanted to make something live edge out of, but I can't think of anything. So I'm thinking some 2x6s. Now that I've got this cut, I can kind of picture that I should be able to get some 2x6s out of this. So I think that's what I'm gonna aim for. Well, that's 5 2x6s out of that log, which isn't too shabby. Of course, I'm very interested to see what the next little while brings, just with how twisted that log is. I'm not expecting too much. These will probably warp quite a bit, but who knows? It'll be a fun little experiment. Well, I looked up on the Home Depot website this morning here in Ontario, Canada, for one 8-foot spruce 2x4, $9.95 plus sales tax, which takes it over $10 now for one 8-foot 2x4, which in my mind is just crazy. It wasn't too long ago they were $3 and something each, so pretty much tripled in price, which I don't want to say I'm happy about it, but I'm definitely happy about the decision to get a sawmill, because man, I wouldn't want to be having to buy lumber these days. Well, I hope that provided you with a little bit of entertainment, watching me cut up a couple wonky cedar logs on the Woodland Mills HM126. But anyways, that's going to be everything for me today. Really appreciate you watching. Thanks a lot, and I'll see you next time.